order with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I did get a message from our clerk. She's on her way, but she may be a few minutes late. So in the few minutes she's absent, can someone act as clerk or any nominations?
I nominate Trustee Lay, thank you. I'll think of Miranda, no.
I accept.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay.
We have a motion by Rogers, support by Brown for Trustee Lay to serve as temporary clerk until our clerk arrives. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion to appoint Trustee Lay as temporary clerk, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you for serving. Motion passes unanimously. We have a relatively light agenda in front of us this evening, but I'm happy to entertain any motions regarding the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as
Second.
presented.
Support?
Motion by Therian, support by Rogers. Discussion? Seeing, you want a roll call on this?
You forgot roll call.
Oh, we'll go back to that, if that's okay. Thank you for that, though. All in favor of the motion to approve the agenda as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Agenda passes unanimously.
Who moved and who supported, real quick?
Sorry?
Who moved and who supported?
James? I supported.
There,
Trustee
okay.
Therian, Treasurer Rogers. Would you do a roll call of the board when you have your notes in
Yeah.
order?
Okay, Supervisor Milky,
Here?
Trustee Brown,
Here.
Trustee Lay, here. I'm going out of order, aren't I? Treasurer Cody,
Rogers?
Rogers, sorry. And Trustee Thering.
Here.
And Tim, Trustee Lannon is
He's-
excused.
yes, he's
and Clerk
excused.
Cody should be here
Yep.
momentarily. Thank you for that.
Sorry.
We have no presentations tonight, no public hearings, so that will bring us to public comment. And I'm just going to want to address the elephant in the room here, because people are here tonight. This is kind of nice. But I'm assuming based on phone calls I've gotten, comments I've gotten, reports I've seen from social media. I'm not on Facebook, but I hear about this stuff. I thought I'd try to do a little preamble so that you actually know what we're dealing with. And so it's meant as education, so bear with me. So back in December 2020, so this would be the previous board, they were going through the budget process. And as a result of that, it was identified that we have real good long-term capital planning for our public works, and that includes water, sewer, et cetera. That's been happening in this township for a long time. But that there hasn't been the same attention given to capital planning for the other assets that the township has, which includes Township Hall, Jamison Hall, the parks, et cetera, et cetera. So in, I believe it was January or February of 21, the township board, so that'd be the previous elected board, decided one of its ends, and you can think of ends as the vision or goals of the township, that would be to refine long-term capital planning for the township outside of just the public works. So public works, as I said, have been doing this for a long time. First thing we went after was IT infrastructure. So we actually have a capital plan for our IT, how we replace computers. We have fiber optics that we're a partner in, et cetera, and how we're going to continue to pay for that and maintain that over time. So one of the aging assets is this building right here. This building is about 50 years old. It's been expanded and renovated over the years. A few years ago, this hall actually, we ran out of room to hold staff. And so as a result of that, we expanded the facility on the south end of town, the South Isabella, the water treatment plant there. And we ended up expanding that and moving the public works personnel to that office. And that gave us the room to survive here for now. So the Board of Trustees, this would be back again about 21, probably during that summer of 21. I don't have exact dates. kind of had this realization that there is an end of life for this building in its usefulness as it is today. That with the continued growth we're seeing in the township, we will likely not be able to service the public and or house the staff properly. So let's see, I'm just checking my notes, make sure to get the timeline right. So when the board had those discussions, it wasn't, we're gonna replace the building tomorrow. What came from that is we need to plan for it because in the future, it's gonna happen. It's inevitable. So we're talking 5, 10, 15, potentially even 20 years down the road. And so in July of '22, Trustee Hauk motioned to have the township move forward with a proposal to begin and complete the Township Hall preliminary architectural feasibility report with an approved amount of $24,400. That motion was supported by Clerk Cody and approved unanimously by the previous board. So almost 3 years later from that time, that report is finally complete, and this board visited it last meeting for the first time, had a review of that. So that's what's on the agenda tonight, is that report. The report was made up from many sources. There were a lot of contributors, all looking at different anticipated needs for the township down the road. Not tomorrow's needs, 5, 10, 15 years down the road. So this is a very proactive approach. We're anticipating what's coming rather than trying to be reactive to what's inevitable. So our community's recently witnessed what happens when long-term planning's not done. So we're here tonight not to spend $10 million. It's not going to happen tonight. What we are here to discuss is at some point we have to do something with this hall, whether it be an expansion or replacement, and we need to be able to begin to plan for that. And that's really what this discussion that the board's going to have tonight is about, is when that time comes, and I can't tell you when that is, like I said, it's down the road. When that time comes, how are we going to pay for it so that we're not hurting the service level that the township can offer to the community? So I hope that's a little helpful background on what this is that the board is talking about tonight. So with that, any other comments from anybody? With that, we'll open up public comment at 7:07 p.m. Public comment is restricted to items on the agenda. Please restrict your comments to 3 minutes and also state your name and address for the record. And with that, we'll open up public comment at 7:08 now.
Good evening. My name is Jim Engler. I live at 2303 Amber Lane here in the township. And I guess, I mean, you brought up some things I didn't know prior, but it still doesn't really change where I'm at on this whole thing. The fact that we're here tonight to discuss the potential building of a new township hall is totally unbelievable to me. Apparently this board and the boards in the past don't view the feelings of the constituents very meaningful. In November this year, Union Township voted not to support a millage for police protection and road patrols. And I think if you poll the people in the township whether they would have prefer police protection or a new township hall, I'm pretty sure the police protection would gain that. And you know, you mentioned the township's growing. The township actually from 2000, according to the U.S. Census, from 2020 to 24, reduced by 1.10%. A lot of reasons for that. Most of it's overregulation, excessive fees, and general anti-business attitude here in the township. I guess in an analogy, if you're a dairy farmer in 2020 you're milking 100 cows, and in 2024 you now have 98 and a half cows. Are you looking to build a new barn? Probably not. And I think that's where we're at. I just think it's a ridiculous idea. The township's not growing, and it needs to be more business, pro-business, to get people here with jobs, or jobs for people here. And one other note while I'm here, basically Union Township's finally moved into a first place in a tie for first place in the statewide competition. And they're now tied with the city of Mount Pleasant as the worst and least friendly area to develop in the state of Michigan. And you can clear that with any developer in the state. You can find that easily. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill Houck, 1304 East Baseline. My name was, my first name was mentioned, but I was the one that, I will admit, that years ago, I said we need to do some expansion. We have some small offices here. They do need some space, but to go from the proposals, to go from 6,200 square feet, which the current building is supposed to be, to 18,000 square feet is ridiculous. I look at the blueprints that were on the, I know they're preliminary blueprints. I look at those and I think to myself, I was on that board. I mean, I was on your board. I know how many employees we have. Excessive offices. How many offices, I mean, Mr. Engler said that our population is declining. What do we plan on adding? We don't need public safety. We already have public safety supplied by others. We do have our own fire. We have basically our own fire department, but we don't have to have a space for them. I see where there's multiple boardrooms and conference rooms in these buildings. How many times has there ever, I know, I was here. How many times have there ever been 2 meetings going on here at once? I don't ever recall it. If 6 years on the board, I can't recall having 2 meetings at once. We put, I don't know how many $100,000 into the, Brian, you had mentioned it, and Mr. Milky, you had mentioned out at the water plant. I can't remember how many $100,000 we put into that building. What happens to that now? Storage? I hope that the board members up here are going out and talking to the public. Ask them privately what they think of this, not just having this open forum. I think you guys should be going out talking to people. I know a couple people have, but I will say one thing. When I was on this board, when we had major decisions like this, and I know there's people in this public, I called them and asked them what their opinions were. I think you guys should do that. Trying to see some other notes here. Like I said, many offices, and then I noticed cubicles. One of the proposals, there were 12 cubicles. I'm not sure if they were cubicles, but the business I do, I'm in all kinds of offices. I know what a cubicle looks like. So, all right, I'm probably getting cut off here, so I'll leave.
Well, you got time if you want, Bill.
That's okay.
All right.
I know that look. I had that look many times. When I was on this board, I had that look many times.
Thank you.
Good evening, Rick McGurk, 4175 East Bluegrass Road. And my opinion I don't think it's a good timing to be looking at a project like this based on all the other previous comments, but I just would like to mention if there's an excess of capital is to put that money towards improving the water system as far as quality, pressure, and looking at perhaps a softening function like the city of Mount Pleasant provides the residents, and investing those funds to that direction, people can feel it and businesses can benefit from it, and instead of the different things that bounce from time to time with the water. So appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
I'm talking for 2 addresses. The first one I'm talking about is 500 Meadowbrook. I'm talking that if we're thinking about putting a $10 million building in place, we should be thinking about having a sheriff's department. Because quite honestly, since this sheriff's department is down to next to 2 people, I'm nervous that if I need somebody to come to my house, I have nobody that's coming for any time soon. So that's one of the things that I want you guys to consider. If there's money to be spent, that's where it should be spent. The second one is I'm Cheryl Hunter, 4855 East Bluegrass Road, Hunter's Ale House. We own a strip mall over there. Our taxes are too high right now. I pay $45,000 a year, and we just got a note that our taxes are going to go up. We're having a hard time surviving just as a business. We make maybe not even 1% profit. So we're really struggling over there. And to think that our taxes are going to go up to pay for something like that is a problem for me. I always wanted to know, what are the big boxes paying for taxes for Union Township? Are they paying their fair amount, like I have to pay mine? If they're not, they should. The other thing that I want to say are sidewalks. I paid, I think, $18,000 for sidewalks in front of my building maybe 8 years ago. I think maybe that's when it was. And those sidewalks still aren't complete. And there's no sidewalks hardly anywhere else in my area. What? And lighting. And the problem that I have there is that is a very dense community. That's a community that is, there's a 55-year-old building, or community building. Then there is low-income housing, there's student housing, there's some foreign housing, and these people are not being taken care of. They are walking in weeds. And then if there's somebody that's handicapped on a wheelchair, they're going down the street, okay, with no sidewalk. Now, I think it's time to look at that and make a decision. If you're going to spend money, spend it over there where that's fair for that community, where my business is, okay? I really want you to think hard about that. I've gone to this board several times and I get nothing. I get crickets, okay? It's not fair to everybody that lives in that area. They deserve better than that, okay? So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl.
This is my chance.
Okay.
Carla K. Bauman, 2250 Rosewood North. Our water sucks. My husband can clean our toilet every day, and every time it turns into muck. And we come to the township, they say everything's cool, and what, I'm not gonna drink it. If it turns like that, and he, he's very friendly, is friendly. And that's my biggest concern. Yeah. And I'm sure Johnny's got some more things to say.
Okay.
Hopefully.
Thank you.
Yes, my name is John Chatfield. I live at
My husband.
2250 Rosewood North. And yes, there was a problem there. They did come out and blow the hydrants out, but they did not blow the one out in our yard. They did the one across the street and down the street. They didn't do the one in front of our house. So that's where possibly some of the problems lie. So could you have that done, please?
This is on the Rosewood, you said?
It's on Rosewood.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right across from the school.
Anybody else? Well, I appreciate all of you coming, and I do appreciate all the comments. It's good for all of us to hear. So thank you very much. Last chance, last call. I'm sorry. Oh, nobody online? Okay. Last call, going once? Yeah, would you like to come up?
My party pants. I thought I could go home and change, but I obviously did. So.
That's okay. Just please state your name and address for the record, and then.
Yeah, it's Sue Hahn. Address is 2280 West Deerfield Road. So I had seen the article in the newspaper about the $10 million building project. Just want to know if that's been discussed already?
That's
It
it.
has.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Well, the board has not discussed it, but you're welcome to comment and,
Okay. So I'd comment, I hope my tax dollars aren't gonna go for that. Just whatever else can be utilized with space in our area that's already there and pre-existing, and instead of creating a new, building, I don't know, I think back to the day that we had portables for kids to be in the schools, that we couldn't build a new school because we didn't have money. I mean, something that we have to think about, I think, at least until we can get our safety in our community back first before we spend more money on another building project, so.
awesome, thank you.
All right, I gotta go up again. I'm gonna say, if I may, everything is online now, so why do you need a building? You need a little building so people that don't have, you know. Now, do we need party places like this? Do you utilize one of these rooms and offer it up for seniors to come in, or do you rent it out for weddings or parties, or, you know? Otherwise, you're just wasting energy, personally.
Thank
I
you,
know it's liability, but
thank you. Anybody else? Okay, going once. I do, again, I want to appreciate everybody's comments and that you came here tonight. But seeing no one else coming forward, we'll close public comment at 7:21 p.m. That brings us to item 9 on the agenda. We have no appointments tonight, but we do have some board member reports, I'm sure. Trustee Therian?
Our next meeting, Planning Commission meets next week, so we are all set till the next meeting.
Clerk Cody? Trustee Brown?
Yeah, City Commission meeting, March 10th. Just a few bullet points real quick here. I'll make it quick. City Commission meeting, 3 property owners were honored with the city's Community Involvement Award. Since 1979, the Planning Commission for the City of Mount Pleasant has presented these awards to residential and commercial property owners and have made significant improvements to their property. The following properties were recognized for 2024. Broadway Family Dentistry at 611 East Broadway Street. McGuire Family Investments, LLC, 106 and a half Bruce Street. Deborah Leisure and Bob Horn at 701 South Arnold Street. That's been, Community Involvement Award's been going on since 1979. That's kind of a neat program that they've done. Also, one other very important point, our friend John Zhang is the new commissioner. He was sworn in Monday night. So congratulations to Commissioner Zhang. That's my report.
Thank you.
I've got nothing because my first intergovernmental meeting isn't until May.
Okay. Treasurer Rogers?
Road Commission meeting is tomorrow, so I can report after that.
Very good. I just have one thing. Board review is ongoing as we speak. We had our 2 longer sessions, Monday and Tuesday. Friday will be the closure of that. And at that point, they'll certify the tax rolls. We had maybe, ballpark, 17 appeals. Of those 17 appeals, probably 10 of those didn't even submit the appeal because after they discussed their tentative tax values and their assessed values, et cetera, and they understood that better, they decided that they were happy with it and didn't want to appeal it. So it was rather light work actually this year, and maybe that has to do with the fact that the state index for increase in local property taxes went up 5% the previous 2 years, and this year it's a 3.1, dictated by the state. So I think the board of review, new members on that board, I think it went well. And I think the training was done 2 Saturdays ago, and that was well received from what I heard. So moving on to consent agenda, item 10 on the agenda. Happy to entertain any motions on that.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Motion by Cody, support by Rogers. Who had warrants?
I did. Everything was clear. It's good.
Any questions, comments? We have a motion to approve consent agenda as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Consent agenda passes unanimously. That brings us to new business item 11A, board discussion of next steps on the Township Hall feasibility study. I already gave my spiel a little bit just to give a background on it, so I won't talk a whole lot more on it at this point, but I'll ask our manager to give any comments that you would like.
Just, there were a couple board members that were out ill last week. We made an initial presentation to the board, the results of the study that was done that was previously mentioned. As indicated, this is a long-term planning document. There's no need to, and there's no intent to be rushing forward, but there is responsibilities on behalf of the board and the administration to be looking out over the horizon, and that's what we're doing with this. Whether the building would end up at 18,000 square feet or 12,000, you know, that's all in the fine tuning. So the board had asked that there be an agenda item tonight to just discuss it amongst yourselves. If the board so inclined, there could be direction provided to the administration to refine those estimates. There could be board saying, thank you for the information, did what you asked, and that's that. There's been no discussion yet of financing. How does this get paid for? My experience is that it would be a combination of cash financing and debt financing. From a municipal finance perspective, financing these kind of assets similar to the water and sewer, these long-term assets that are designed to last 30, 40, 50 years, makes little sense to cash finance the whole thing, because then your current taxpayers are paying for everything. But it may be something that the board wants to start setting some money aside for in fund balance over the years, you know, looking forward. So again, it's just there's a lot of assets in the township: roads, sidewalks, parks, other building facilities, and it's our responsibility to keep those maintained and in good operating order. And so that's what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. So I was actually out ill at the last meeting, so I watched you all do the discussion of this. And tonight we have another member who happens to be on vacation. But I'm happy to open this up. I don't know if the public has had a chance to look at this feasibility study, what it proposes, just for reference. Is 3 different options. One is taking the existing building and expanding to it. Another is building next to it, and then ultimately demolishing this. And the third being building on a site south of town along Mission and Deerfield, where we have a new well site there. Lots of talk about whether or not that was going to be a park. Do we want to expand this park? And that's another reason for some of this planning, is if we know ultimately that the Township Hall remains here, then that property that we own down there can be looked at for park use later down the road, once we have capital for that. Or vice versa would be true. If we decided that ultimately we would move down there, lots of options. But I'm happy to open this up to the board.
I have been talking to a lot of residents and business owners in the area, because that's why I'm here. I ran to help make a difference. I'm one person, but we have some pretty good minds around here. If we currently have 6,000 square feet, do we need 18? Again, that was just, I don't know, I'm only here since November, so I don't know where that size came from to start with. Would that cover us for 30 years forward? We don't know. But it's important that the taxpayers are involved in this conversation, so thank you for coming. We need our community involvement. We are the community, so it's important that we're all involved. The funding, that comes after we figure out how much room do we really need. This building is too small. Again, I've been here since November. My office is fine. I don't need much room. But the storage and then moving forward, do we need another assistant to the assessor? I can see that happening. That's another small office, but how much room do we need? That's where we need to define and then narrow that down. And I appreciate all the feedback I've had from all the residents and business owners I've talked to, because we want better communication and relationship between our township board and our community. We want you to be glad that you live here and think we're taking good care of you. Thank you.
I think we're at a really raw stage right now. This is just, this is the study. We're here just to talk, and glad to see everybody's out here. Glad it brought the attention, but we're talking years and years away. I would hope you would be here and be asking us the same questions if we weren't looking at this study and weren't planning ahead for our township. Like we have, and like past boards have, why our water and sewer and our capital investments that Union Township have out there are superior to any other township around in this area. But we're at the size where we do have to have these studies, and we do have to look 10 years into the future. We have to. And I like what Trustee Rogers has said, with having you guys involved is very important in that future, 10 years, 15, 20 years for our children, so that's what this is about tonight. This is the future, not tomorrow, not next week, not next year, probably way past when I'm gone out of here, and I'm not sitting here anymore. It's gonna be somebody else sitting here when this they're talking about building this building, so, but this old guy has to plan for the future. So I think that's very important what we're doing here as a board tonight in this discussion, and having this room full is just as important. Thank you.
I think the worst thing we can do as a small or local government is to be reactionary, to have a problem come headlong at us, and then have to figure out what to do at the seat of our pants, and have to rent space for our people that work here and pay that expenditure, to have to then try to figure out where we're going to go permanently. I think this is kind of, I gave the analogy of, it's kind of like knowing that your car is old and you set aside a little bit of money every year, knowing that you maintain the car that you have, and then know that eventually you're going to have to replace it. Eventually it's going to get to a point where it's done. That is the definition of fiscal responsibility. Putting aside a little bit each year for the ultimate big purchase. We inherited this from the last board. The next board will inherit this from us. That's the way local government works. It's a snail's pace. We're not going out there with a shovel, to break ground next week, which is what it felt like when you're reading things that were being put out online. It sounded like we were going to just get the backhoe out there and just start building the foundation right now. And that's not at all what's going on.
I wonder if the next question we should start asking is, does the what we have in front of us now represent the perfect world or what we actually need? And that is something I cannot answer because I don't work in the building every day. So maybe to ask Manager Stuhldreyer and his staff, what would be something that this is what we actually need. And maybe this is it. I don't know, but maybe it's not. If it's not, then start talking about it from that perspective. And if we go, well, that seems more in tune with how we feel, and then maybe take another step as just, again, from a budget standpoint, start slowly planning for that. So when the board does finally make that decision, they have something.
Am I understanding correctly that a lot of the staff members were part of this feasibility? Like they were, I know there were several people who were on the working group that helped guide this feasibility report. Is that correct?
That's correct. The internal team was myself, Kim Smith, Rodney Nanny, Sherry Teal, Finance Director, Mr. Nanny, Community Economic Development Director, Clerk Cody, and then Miss Amy Peak, not management staff, but kind of representing the administrative staff, particularly as it relates to the customer service aspect.
So could you answer for the committee then? Does the committee feel that this is the bare minimum, or is this kind of like this is a good start and we need to add to or take away? Is that kind of what would as a committee what?
The committee supports the work that was done. We made no. The only recommendation we made was that a building continue to exist in this part of the township, specifically on this lot, so to speak, not to locate it down south. It's existed here forever, so why change it? There are some things in the current plan. For instance, it has a more formal boardroom, okay? Not as opulent, if you will, as, say, the cities, but something above what this might look like. We have curtains that we're pulling back. We have chairs that, get moved around. Something a little more, I say, formal for the Board of Trustees. So I know that was a piece that would have a fair amount of leeway in terms of size and that type of thing. We consciously made significantly more space for the election process. We've always been able to run good elections under whatever laws that existed at the time. Those have changed a lot. Elections are very important for all of us, whether or not you're an elected official or not. The integrity, all that. So we did have considerably more space than in this building for election-related activities. And then there is, in that plan, space to grow the staff. And that will, it was mentioned earlier, I've been here 9 years, and we've added 2 positions to the organization. One was additional support for the finance director. I came in here and we had a temporary part-time support for the finance director. And that was not sustainable. That's not good business. It doesn't make any sense. And so the board approved my recommendation that we move that to a full-time job. The other position that was created was a position of Community Economic Development Director, and that had to do with all the land use and zoning and all of that. And there were, the board and the community's emphasis was on code enforcement, fair code enforcement, and we needed to bring in some additional skills for that. So that's been 2 positions in 9 years. Former trustee Haupt would often ask me what I thought the next position would be that we would need to add, and my answer was usually, if we get to, right now we have like 23 full-time employees. As we get closer to 30, the organization's going to need some more formal skill sets in the area of human resources. Right now we handle benefit administration, but we don't need to do a lot with the small organization from labor relations, but at the end of the day, everything with local government, more so than almost any other industry, except maybe agriculture, is very labor intensive. You don't, you can't do a lot of what we do with robots. Okay, it was mentioned public safety earlier. You need boots on the ground. Maybe someday we'll have robots that can perform sheriff type of duties, but until then, you need people. You can't automate a lot of this stuff. It would be my assumption, and yes, population goes up and down. 15 years ago, or maybe more, there were 7,000 people in the township. Now there's over 11,000. Maybe there used to be 12, it's back down to 11. But if things go the way my guess is the community over the long term will continue to grow, not shrink. And Isabella County and Union Township in particular, in its proximity to the city, I can see becoming a real player much more than in the past in the area. So there is room in that model or that plan. I don't remember the exact number, it might be 2 extra people. This building is not ADA compliant, and when we do rehabs, we make it ADA compliant in the rehab area, in the areas that we've rehabbed. But again, this is forward thinking. This is not 2 years down the road. This is like 5, 10, 15-year horizons. And a smart township, whether it's a city, township, any local government, is going to plan for the future. And we did that when we put in the water and sewer system. We didn't build the system to handle the customer count that existed at the time. So we just have a responsibility as stewards of these public funds and service delivery to be looking towards the future, and that's what we're doing. Long answer to your question, but I think I touched on many of the areas.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I think we're coming into this where I found myself. I do appreciate the feasibility study. It gave me a lot to think about. It gives me pause in the sense of, okay, there's a very broad number out there. In this case, all 3 of those were in the $10 million neighborhood. Is that the correct number? I don't know, but at least it gives me a feeling that in 10, 15 years, there's going to be some capital expense. And so my gut reaction to all of that really becomes, so how do we want to finance that, and how do we set ourselves up in the best way? So let's just say 10 years for sake of argument. When we have to finance some of that, how much can we defray by what we do now? Right? And that's kind of my goal, is the financial perspective of it, making sure that whatever plans we make, we are able to keep up with the other things that were mentioned by many of the people that came here tonight. Sidewalks, for example, right? Roads. I mean, those are things we continually put money into. And those things should not suffer as a result of this. But that's why we're planning this, is so that we can mitigate the damage of what financing a large building would do, right? So I think this committee is kind of asking us, do you want to pick one of these options to explore further? Because what's not in these plans currently is, if we were to build on this site, we have some real drainage issues that we don't fully understand that would have to be dealt with. What kind of costs is that going to bring to the project that we're not aware of now? So doing the next level of this, right, really brings much more detail and much more narrowed cost, and making sure that the building that we're viewing as a future building, one, meets the needs but isn't too much, right? I think that's some of the questions that are happening, is it the right size? Well, we don't know that really fully, do we? So I'm not sure I'm ready to say let's pick one of these and do it. Maybe I will be in 6 months. None of this is a hurry, right? And we're not really going to do anything. We've already got the budget for this year, so we're not going to be budgeting some set-aside money at this point. That might be something we do for next year's, that we begin to put something away for rainy day, right? What I feel like I need, since I've not undertaken a venture like this before in local government, is I would like some more education on what are all the different financing options we have. We currently make almost as much in interest on the money we have in the bank. Township is very fat. We can survive over 2 years at the current service levels without having a dime of income. That's the cash available that we have in general fund. So we're very well managed, very financially sound township. I could make the argument that we are either overtaxing or underserving, but we're at 1 mil for our general fund. And not just this board, but prior boards have been very conservative in their wanting to spend. And there's been attempts to try to spend that down, but it's not that easy to spend stuff down when your goal is to make sure you're spending it wisely. And as a result of that, this township is in a very well-managed place. We're in a great spot. We're not in a position where we're trying to figure out how to make payroll this week, right? We're very well managed. So what I don't want to see happen, though, is I wouldn't want to put too much money away each cycle, because we want to make sure we keep our service levels up, right? But back to the interest. Because we have this cash on hand, we're making almost as much in interest as we do from that 1 mil of tax. Right? If you looked at that, we get roughly $350,000 in '24 in our 1 mil of tax. Last year we had, I think it was in the neighborhood of $336,000 in interest. That's a great place to be. Maybe one thing we look at, these are questions I have, I'm thinking out loud here. Maybe one thing we look at is taking some of that interest money and beginning to accrue that in its own fund for that rainy day fund, for when the time comes that we don't have to borrow the whole kit and caboodle, right? And I take to heart what our manager said, that we don't want today's residents to completely finance something that's gonna be used for the next 50 years. That would not be fair to today's residents. But I wanna explore those options and understand better what can we do to finance something similar to this, whether it be a $5 million building or a $15 million building. You know, that I think we haven't quite narrowed down completely. It's a big window, a 30% contingency on that, right? Was what the study said. So to summarize that, I guess, I'm not sure I'm ready to say let's move ahead with any one direction, because I want to understand financing, because that may help me understand better how and when we should be looking at this expenditure, right? I mean, I know we have needs, because we're bursting at the seams here. But I agree with a lot of the comments that I heard from the public tonight, in that we don't want to see other services or assets that suffer because we're trying to figure out how to pay for a building. Because we see that in communities across our state, right? We're seeing it here. And I don't think there's a single board member here that wants to do anything that puts us in that position. Is that accurate? Right? So what was being asked of us, right, was do we want to pursue one of these? My personal feeling is I'm very grateful we have this. I want some time to think about it. I want some education before we pull a trigger on any one direction to explore further. Because we're not in a hurry, like we said from the beginning, right? What I would like is to have some more clarification before the next budget cycle, so that we have an idea, are there things that we can do now? Those are my thoughts.
And I think of those three choices, we need to decide what's the best location. And for traffic-wise, I think this location.
What I'd like to see is, I'd like to see kind of a site survey to see what the drainage issues are, because that hiding right there could exponentially change what the budget for this site would be.
And we need to relook at the size of the building.
Yeah. But you guys kind of did prove the point that we do need a bigger conference room. I mean,
We're fine. I mean, how many people usually get in here a week?
well, you guys could show up. I mean, seriously, if you guys do have issues, you should come talk to us so we know.
Showed up tonight because of this big, building.
If that's the only thing you have to worry about, then you're doing pretty well, aren't you?
No, I'm not.
Then you need to come and talk to us.
All right.
It doesn't do any good.
I do appreciate you all being here. I will answer your question. Normally, we don't have anybody here, and it's disappointing to me. But I also realized that when we don't have anybody here, that means we're not ticking anybody off too, which is why you're here tonight. And I get that. And if I'm you, I'd have the same concerns, to be honest.
You'd have the sheriff here.
No, but I get the perspective you're all bringing tonight, 100%. There's no question, especially in light of what we've seen in our community this past year, okay? I mean, I'm not insensitive to that. This is something that was started in '22 that came before us now. Timing is awful, right? I get the perspective of that. But in the same light, I also know our job is to look forward and make sure that we're looking at all of it. And I think that's the point I also heard tonight, is look at all of it. Because if we're suffering here to get this, then is it worth it? I hear that. Having said that, we are going to be in a spot where we have to do something someday. It's coming. And so I'm really appreciative that the prior board took this step. What I heard from you two, let's try to move on.
Yeah.
What I heard from you two is you would like to look at a site more, just so we know the feasibility of it down the road.
Yes.
I don't think we need to spend any more money on plan stuff. We need to, amongst ourselves, figure what space we need, because I think we can figure that out with all that money spent.
Okay.
Goodrow does a great job, but how much space do we need? And then going forward, can we, I don't know the bones of this building as far as footings and all kinds of stuff, what condition it's in, but can we use this and add on? I know I don't know how many times it's been added on, several, I think. But is that feasible? So then we have the room we need, so then we have something that can get us 8 years down the road, and I was like, okay, now we need more room.
I'm open to discussing all of that, absolutely.
I think the adding on was the most expensive option.
Well, it was 12,000 feet, so we don't need 12,000 feet on. That's my thought,
The other concern, I just want to lift it up again, though,
Yeah.
is the drainage one. And that
Yeah.
was a
Sure.
big one that I heard from what was done here, is we don't understand that, because that could be a showstopper for this site.
Yeah.
And what would it cost to get that, get that
Do you have any feeling for that?
No.
Okay.
10,000?
So these are questions we want to get answers to. So
Yeah.
is it reasonable to ask this board that we just continue this conversation?
Oh, good, yeah,
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
absolutely.
And I guess from that, I'd like to hear from everybody. I heard trying to identify what the drainage issues
issue is.
are. I think, I'm trying to paraphrase, correct me if I'm wrong, really nailing down what are the anticipated needs size-wise. Is this the right size? Is it the wrong size? Let's determine that better.
Right, and excuse me one second. I've been in construction 35 years. Most things are able to be added on to. I mean, that's not always, but if you can get everything done and you get the space you need for 5 million instead of 10, and it serves everything we need, that's a win.
Okay, and then I would like to have some additional education on different options for financing. Because that's really what this is about anyways, right? Is we need to make sure we're financially setting ourselves up for the things that happen in the future, right? That's the capital planning perspective. Are there other things that we would like to be able to answer in the next coming months?
That's it, I think.
Planning Commission can answer your water problems. You can get someone to contact. They can tell you where the water will go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
What was that?
Commissioner Green.
I was just trying to identify.
I thought I heard something out in the crowd.
Oh, yes.
You did. The comment was that the drain commissioner can assist with telling us where the water.
While the current site's underwater.
Yeah. Okay. So, thank you.
Using the county drains.
I want to thank the public for being here. I hope it's helpful to hear us a little bit. So I think the action from here, board, is asking to set up.
Let me try to recap.
That'd be great.
So you're looking for some more information. We all would be. Remember, there's two key words in this study: preliminary and feasibility. So that ought to tell us right away that these are rough. It wasn't designed to be precise. My guess would be that this is a 20% either way. The range is $8 to $12 million for this plan right here. And so we'll look closely at size. There are placeholders in the report for some site work and drainage and that kind of thing, but we can refine those as well. And then the financing, we would be able to provide some numbers for that. At the end of the day, the way anything is paid for is either with cash or borrowing. We are not allowed to print money, and as indicated, we levy 2.5 mils for fire, 1 mil for everything else, and that's a small piece of the total tax bill that we all pay. well, 1 mil doesn't leave a lot of room for much else. So we'll continue to look at it and refine it, and I do think it would make sense in the long run to be, you know, some combination of cash financing and borrowing is the best way to do these kind of things. And even to cash finance it, you need to start putting some money away. We can try to figure out roughly, you know, what may make some sense with that. I think it was reported when the library gave us a report a couple of weeks ago, they've been saving money for 20 years, you know, to do what they're getting ready to do over there. So thank you for your input, and I think we have some direction.
Any last comments from the board? Moving on to new business 11B, 2% grant application discussion. 2% roundtable will be happening later this month. And I just wanted an opportunity for the administration to articulate to this board some of the 2% that we're looking at, applications, as well as opportunity for discussion for the fall, for this board to give input on ideas that we might want to consider for the fall applications. And Mr. Stuhldreher, do you have anything to add to this?
Yeah, I can just as a bit of background, we do have a few new people here. There is a twice a year, referred to locally as the 2% grant. There's spring and fall, and there's a portion of the casino slot machine revenue that by compact is then distributed to various to the local community, to local governments, and then the various school districts. They distribute these funds countywide. Some of the things the administration's looking at, you may recall that in the fall, maybe the winter of 2024, the board approved a contract with Isabella Corp to do some upgrades to McDonald Park. And there was a list of needed upgrades that totaled about $600,000 when we actually went out for bid and the contract. And so we worked that list and we brought it down to around $300,000, and that was the contract that was approved with Isabel Corp. So we thought about asking the tribe for a couple $100,000 to do some of those other things at McDonald Park that were left off the list. Parking lot, not all the parking lots made the final cut in terms of repaving, restriping. The pathways through the park, the asphalt needs some repair. Those did not make the final cut. So there was that application that's would make some sense, I think. We've had a request from one of the little leagues for a batting cage, and that occurred to us that might be a good ask for the 2%. The township would own the batting cage, but this is Little League, and they're throwing around a number of $17,000 for a batting cage. And I don't know if that includes the pad and some of the site work, but if you do want to Google batting cages, you can get them for $500 all the way to $15,000. So we budgeted about $75,000 for the annual gravel road refurbishing and brine work. That's always a good one for 2% money. It's already budgeted, but if we don't spend it, it just flows to fund balance. So if we're able to supplant the current budgeted funds with 2% funds, that's a savings. There's been talk and by the road commission and by the community, Lincoln Road from Packard to River Road could need, could use.
Pickard to River.
Or, I'm sorry, Pickard to
Okay.
River. Could use some grind and repaving. That might be a $250,000 to $300,000 job, and that might be a thing we ask for from a 2% perspective. So that's what we're kind of looking at for the spring, and some of that probably carried over to the fall as well.
So I wanted to talk about this, just so everybody understands. We have liaisons that go in to these roundtables from the township and have discussions about what the tribe would like to see and what the township would like to see. And myself, Clerk Cody, Trustee Lay have been appointed to those positions, and the roundtable's coming up. And I wanted to arm, at the very least, the group that's going with things we're looking at. So when we have those discussions, you kind of know what, hey, we need a batting cage maybe. Be interested in that? Is that something right?
Right.
But I'm happy to also, if you have ideas, and we can have this conversation anytime, but as we get closer to fall, if there are things we want to look at as a board for a 2% application, we need plenty of time to do that, because you've got to do potentially the engineering, or just do the application. There's pre-work that happens. And so we can't just do that the month before, right? So I want you all to be thinking about that for the fall, ideas. But of the ones you listed, I'm certainly supportive of all those.
There are two big buckets: recreation and roads.
Roads. And certainly this stretch of road here is one I have strong interest in getting repaired. So, other comments? Is this helpful for when you go to the round table?
Okay.
Yeah? Okay, good. Let's see, that brings us to item 12, extended public comment. Extended public comments restricted to 5 minutes regarding any issue. If you choose to address the public, please state your name and address for the record. And with that, we'll open up extended public comment at 8:07 p.m.
Oh, are you okay?
Oh, yes, I'm fine. Hi, I'm Cheryl Hunter, everybody knows. I'm at 4855 East Bluegrass Road, and 500 Meadowbrook is my home. So again, I'm going to talk about public safety. I think that we need something. I am very concerned about that right now. I'm also feel that I am overtaxed. And you mentioned that Union Township doesn't have to worry about making payroll. Well, I'm telling you right now, every 2 weeks, I have to worry about making payroll. I may even have to borrow it from some funds. So that's where I'm at, and the taxes just keep on getting higher and higher every year. I want you to really consider that. And I'm getting charged a lot of money for taxes, but I'm still not getting lighting, I'm not getting sidewalks, I'm not getting anything. So I'm here to tell you, please consider what I've said tonight. I've been to this board, different boards. You haven't been on the board that I was on, that I was talking to. And I just get nowhere. And I really want you to think about the people that live in that area. I highly suggest you drive around there and you look and see about those sidewalks. You pay attention to that, okay? And you see where all the grass is down. You see that they walk in snow sometimes. A lot of those people out there don't have vehicles, okay? The only way that they're gonna get around is by riding a bicycle or by walking, okay? So I think it's time, if the Union Township has a little war chest, you take some of that money and you fix that. I wouldn't think that sidewalks is a whole lot of money. It was $18,000 for me. So there's probably, I don't know, maybe 4 lots maybe. I don't exactly know who those people are that haven't wanted, I think, to have those sidewalks in front of them. Well, I know as a township and as a board you can actually make that happen. You know, you can tell them that they are going to have sidewalks. Am I correct, Mark?
You're generally correct.
Yes, okay, that's what I thought. And so I think it's time for the people in that area, they deserve better than what they have right now. And I've been seeing this for years. I know that sometimes someone's gonna get hit by a car. They are, because it's too dark, there isn't enough lighting there, and they have to be on the road because there's no other place to go. So I think that it's a serious situation, and I hope everybody here that I'm talking to tonight moves forward in this, okay? And that's just what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheryl.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Shut down my purse.
Anybody online by chance? Anybody else? Oh, thank you.
Tim Sprague, 158 East Bluegrass. The only question I have to you guys is, if this new hall is going to be built, is it voted on by the public?
I'm sorry, is it what?
Is it voted on by the public, unlike the jail? Is this something that's voted by the public, or, because it's a lot of money?
If you're okay, I'll answer that when my turn comes.
Okay,
So stick around, please.
okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Uh-huh. I'm gonna try to at least. No promises.
No promises?
I'm gonna try to.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else?
Hi, for those of you who don't know, my name is John Hayes. I live at 1540 South Bamboo Road. Full disclosure, I'm a member of the Isabella County Board of Public Works and the Planning Commission for Union Township. I want to came tonight because we've heard a lot of concern online about feasibility for a new township. And you hear people come in and people have different ideals of what makes good government. We had somebody just come up now talking about expanding sidewalks, which is something that we hear opposition to repeatedly from other people who don't want our tax money to go into new sidewalks because we don't need it. I'm in a position myself where, you know, every dollar that comes across in the planning commission or everything that's sent to you, we are looking forward to see, is it needed? What part of it is going to go towards bettering the community? What part would be perceived as waste? And ironically, I saw some people come up here tonight who, in other positions, and first I thought this was a drainage commission meeting, but 4 years ago, when the Drainage Commission said that they needed a new building, it was put through. People lived again in that, had reservations about that, about creating a new building for the public board, the Isabella County Board of Public Works, but it's needed for a working, feasible government. And I hope that people can take a look at the proposal that was put out tonight and realize that it is just a start. It is just a little piece on the beginning path towards having a functioning government continuing in the future here. Some of you might not be aware, but we just approved to doubling the size of our water treatment plant. This money has gone through. We didn't have people come to the door. We didn't have people lining up here when we're trying to put through new works that are going to help the committee, help the community. And I want you guys to see, and please ask, not just members of the board, but the members here that are concerned about where their taxes are going, to understand that good government takes money. To have good services, it takes commitment from the people in the neighborhood to be willing to work together to build a better place for all the constituents. And while we may see things as spending that we don't see a direct effect on ourselves, these projects lead to a better community that's going to bring more people, bring more higher of a tax base, bring young people that want to come here and settle and continue to grow this township. And I want to thank you guys for exploring this, for taking the time to meet with everyone here tonight and address their concerns. And I look forward to working with you all in the future on trying to find a way to continue to service the people of this township the best we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Going once. Last time I did this, somebody actually got up, so I'm gonna just take my time here.
I could talk all day, but I won't.
Okay. And you know I love talking to you offline too, so, okay. Seeing no one else coming forward, we'll close extended public comment at 8:15 PM. That brings us item 13, manager's comments. Mr. Stuhldreher, do you have any comments tonight?
I do not, thank you.
Okay, that brings us to final board member comment, item 14 on our agenda. Let's see, I started over there before. Trustee Brown?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for coming tonight. It's, finally we get a crowd. We get to, hopefully you come back. We're here every 2 weeks. Proud to be Union Township. I'm proud to live here. I work hard every day for our residents here in the township. We try very hard on this board to be very responsible, and we look out for the finances of this community, Union Township. And I feel lucky that I was voted in to sit on this board to represent you. And we'll give it our best, and we'll look out for you 100% for the future. We feel that's our job. That's what we have to do. Was this bad timing, probably, that this came out? Absolutely. I feel that. I feel with Brian that we just give it a rest. This is a long-term commitment. We take our time. No reason to get in a big hurry. All that does is cost a lot of money. Anytime you hurry in construction. But I guess I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for everybody coming out. So I was gone last week, and I came back to this, and I called by and I said, what? I see again, wow. I see all the social activity, and I have people calling me, and people knocking on my door, and I'm like, what did we start here? What happened? I'm glad. I hope there was a lot of light brought tonight of what the board is trying to do and what this study is about. So thanks again, you guys, for coming, and I hope to see everybody in 2 more weeks. Okay.
Thank you. Trustee Lay?
I'm very happy to see people civically engaging. We need feedback so that we can best serve you. You elected us, and we want to represent you and represent your interests and the interests of subsequent generations of Union Townshipians. I don't know what do we go by.
That'll sell T-shirts.
When I ran on the idea of this is a good place to grow up and a good place to grow old. We want to make sure that we're serving all of the generations of people that are under our umbrella. I want to know more about your sidewalks. But thank you guys all for coming. We're going to be here again. If you're not busy on the 26th, so hope to see you there. No, wait, we're going to be there. Yeah, 26th.
I also thank everyone for coming. We're here for you. That door's open Monday through Friday. The phone line works. If you're not able to come in person for our meetings, it's every 2 weeks. You can look on our website, uniontownshipmi.com, and you can see the agenda. It's like, you know what, I want to hear about that. You can see it online and know what's going on and voice your opinions about what's important and concerns you have. Thank you.
Trustee Therian?
I agree with what Mrs. Hunter said about the sidewalks. It is dark. It is, they are walking through the property when they can. I believe if I recall, we're having issues with getting right-of-way permission, and it would have to come at it from a more legal standpoint rather than, I don't think we've had any luck in talking with the current property owners. So maybe that next step has to take place. It really should, because you are 100% right about the safety of it.
Yep.
It is not the most ideal by any stretch. So I don't know how we move forward from this, but I know that we've talked about this over the last couple of years from our sidewalk committee on the planning commission, and I think even from a board perspective. I'm wondering just really what are our options today? I think, I'm glad you were here because now it's, reminders are needed at times, so. What do we do to have maybe somewhat of a discussion about this to see what are our options if we have any that we are able to?
Clerk Cody?
We have a clerk meeting tomorrow at 6, and then May election's coming up, May 6th election. We're getting ready for that. Everything starts next week, so it'll be busy.
Great. Okay, I'm going to do my best to answer some of the questions that came from the earlier public comment. Okay. My best. And I'm sad that a few of our members left because the first one on my notes had to do with water. So the general fund, I talked about the healthiness of the general fund. And that general fund is funded by a few things, primarily state revenue sharing and the 1 mil that we levy, which is essentially the least that we can do, right? I actually looked in the past when we had some extra money. I'm like, can we give money back? Because it was a way to pay down some of the cash we had. Apparently that's not that easy to do. So what I don't want to see happen in the future, I don't want to raise that mill. We are surviving healthily with that. But having said that, the water is a separate legal fund. The monies can't mix. And so water and sewer, those funds are paid for multiple ways. We just had a roughly $11 million grant that the township got last year to improve our water system. But most of that money is done through service fees, those quarterly fees for water and sewer, and that's how those are maintained, right? And so we can't use water and sewer funds for something over here and vice versa. These are separate legal entities, if that makes sense. So that's the general fund has its purpose. The enterprise public works funds have their purpose, and they don't mix. So on the water. One of the things the township explored, this is probably about 6 years ago, is actually partnering with the city in trying to look at softening options. And we did some feasibility studies, some cost studies then, and ultimately the board decided it was no-go, despite the desire, I think, from the public to do it and the desire from the board at that time, because the costs were exorbitant. And I'm always open to exploring those again. We continue to work to provide redundancy into our water and sewer systems. And with that, we've had some arrangements with the cities so that if they lost pressure in one area, we can help them and vice versa. So we've made that all work better in the community. But I'm open to it, but know it, if we end up going to a softening, it's a big ticket item. And that means those that are on the water are going to pay for it, because that's how that gets funded, right? Sidewalks, one of my favorite things. So I'm so glad you brought it up. When I first ran for office in 12, I ran on trying to get sidewalks on Bluegrass. And I'm so frustrated that they're not complete. And what I learned fairly quickly, as Trustee Thering mentioned, is when the road commission expanded Bluegrass there to 4-lane, they didn't get easements. So there isn't public way easement to put sidewalks in. So those property owners that refused to put sidewalks in, as the manager mentioned, and you asked, the one way to do that is go through legal matters, essentially eminent domain. And then we could find ourselves in a costly legal battle that takes years. But that may be a route we have to go to sometime. But we've been trying. There was money actually appropriated in the 2012 budget for sidewalks all the way down Bluegrass on both sides, down Isabella, and then along Broomfield to connect to the city. Money was set aside back then. we currently have in our current year budget, $375,000 for bluegrass sidewalks. That's our current budget for this year. So we're trying, and I get frustrated every bit as I think is, well, probably not as much as you, but trust me, I hear you, and that has been a priority to try to get this done, and we've been looking at avenues. Eminent domain has come up, and that's like the nuclear option.
Can I ask a question?
Please do.
Okay, so these people that are walking on those properties and they don't have the safety of a sidewalk, don't they have a lot of liability of people on that sidewalk, on that grass?
I don't
think so.
I don't know the
They
answer
need
to
to
that.
know that.
Yeah. Good point. I will bring that up. And
Somebody twists their ankle on there and
right.
Well, they're riding bicycles,
Yeah.
they're doing everything. I
Right.
mean, it just seems like they need maybe a letter again, reminding them that they should have sidewalks, or maybe they're putting themselves at risk by not having a sidewalk there.
I promise I'll look into that more.
Okay.
But yes,
It's really not fair to the community. And I mean, I've been to a lot of different communities. I go to Florida in the winter, there's sidewalks everywhere. I mean, like, there's no place where you walk in the grass. You know, I go to Lansing, there's no place where you walk in the grass in a community. You walk on a sidewalk. So something is wrong right there that needs to be addressed, period.
yes, thank you. Let's see, Sophie. Voted on by the public. Mr. Sprague, right?
yes.
This is my understanding, that's why I said I'll try to answer it. Because I'm a layman, much like you. I've learned a lot sitting with this, right? But I don't know it all. But as I understand it, there are different ways to finance, and this is why I asked that I would like to be better educated in some of this. We could just flat out, if we had the cash for a $5 million new building, let's say, we could flat out pay for it if we had the cash. Or let's say we had $2 million of cash we were willing to put towards it. We could finance $3 million of that, go out and bond it. We could go and ask the public to allow us to do a bond. We could ask the public for another mill or a half mill or a quarter mill. There are lots of different ways to go about doing that. So one avenue is to ask the public, right? Would that happen? I have no idea. Meaning, this is something far enough down the road that I won't be here. So they will have to make the choices then when the trigger needs to be pulled. Do we ask the public to help fund it? Do we ask the public for permission? How do we finance it, right? So I don't know if that's really answering your question, but it's a maybe.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay. That's how I get it, at least. All right. Like I said, I'd try.
It's the thing that you don't wanna ask for too much. The public don't mind giving,
Right.
but when it's like a $10 million all
Yeah.
and you don't have the police on the roads anymore, you know,
Right.
that's, they're gonna turn it right down. They're gonna shut it right down.
Thank you. Again, I'll reiterate what Trustee Brown said, and I think was echoed. I really appreciate you all being here. The last one on my notes, and if I forgot something that somebody raised, I'm happy to try to answer it. Sheriff, Road Patrol is a real concern of mine as well. Absolutely 100%. I mean, my family lives in the township. It is sad how it all played out. It played out the way it did. I get it. I understand all of it. Somebody's going to die.
Yeah.
Someone's going to call 911, and the response time's going to be too slow, and somebody's going to die. And that's the shame in all this. We have looked in the past at trying to stand up our own police force. The cost is enormous. Am I open to having the discussion? Of course. But we have looked at it, and it's rough. What I would like to see happen, and all I'll say about this is, I think the county is going to try to figure out a way to make that happen. How that happens, I don't know. But I know it's important to them too. And they've got a lot of plates in the air right now, and they've got financial challenges that they're dealing with. But I don't think they've lost sight that that's important. And so I don't know where it's going to go, but it is on my radar for sure. And those conversations are, I believe, happening continually. What are options? Townships are allowed to have a constable. Right? And in fact, Union Township has had one constable in its history. Matt Mertz was his name, since passed away, but he was very proud that he was the only constable. He used to come to the meetings on occasion. I think I answered everybody's questions from the comments. So I really appreciate you being here. My business card is, in fact, all of our business cards are out there. Mine, Brian Milkey. My cell number's on my card. Best way to get me. So if you feel you want it, you want to be able to reach out, I'll echo that we try to always be available. Of course, I'm going on vacation soon, but we'll try to be available. I enjoy talking about this stuff. I'm happy to talk with anybody. Anything else for the good of the order?
Nope.
Thank you all for coming. Happy to entertain any motions for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Had a motion over here first.
Seconded.
Motion by Rogers,
Supported.
support by Lay.
Robert's Rules of Order, adjournment is a privileged motion. The chair can make it anytime.
Understood.
Okay.
My practice has been to ask the board their permission by giving the motion. So we have motion by Rogers, support by
Support.
Lay. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned at 8:31 p.m.